I didn't look back when I closed the door, not because it would have hurt, but because it wouldn't have. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. Ordinary. Unremarkable. Funny how the end of something massive rarely announces itself. It just passes. I drove with the radio off. Silence is useful when you're reorganizing yourself. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Her name. I let it ring. Watched the screen until it went dark again. That was the last time it tried. Not because she ran out of words. Because she finally understood they had no power left. People think revenge is loud, explosive, that it requires spectacle. It doesn't. The most devastating kind is quiet. When you remove your presence and leave them alone with the version of themselves they can't escape. I didn't feel triumph. I felt alignment. Like something crooked had finally been straightened without force. Weeks passed. I moved, changed routines, simplified my life until there was nothing left that required explanation. Mutual friends asked questions. I answered carefully, truthfully, briefly. No venom, no theatrics. Her reputation collapsed anyway. Not because I pushed it, because lies can't breathe without attention. I heard she tried to reach me. Through emails. Through people who still believed she was a victim of circumstance. I blocked everything. Not out of anger. Out of precision. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. Some nights, I think about that first message. Is he asleep? Yes, I was. But I woke up, and I didn't go back. I learned something important from her, something she never meant to teach. That love without truth is just manipulation with better lighting. That trust is a privilege, not a default. And that walking away with your dignity intact is the most unrepeatable power a person can have. I don't miss her. I miss who I was before I had to become someone sharper. But I wouldn't trade that version of myself back. Because now, I see everything. And nothing touches me without permission. The story didn't end when I left. It ended when I stopped needing an ending. And she? She gets to remember me every time she wonders how someone could disappear so completely. After knowing her so well, I didn't confront her the next morning. That would have been too easy, too loud. Instead, I watched. She hummed while making coffee. Same tune she always used. Muscle memory. Her eyes didn't meet mine until she was sure her face was ready. When they did, there was warmth there, carefully measured. Like she was serving a portion she'd practiced. You're quiet, she said. I nodded. Long night. True. Just not the way she thought. She kissed my cheek before leaving for work. Light. Almost respectful. As if guilt had taught her restraint. The door closed behind her, and the apartment exhaled. That's when the silence started talking. I sat at the table and stared at her mug. Lipstick mark on the rim. A shade she'd claimed she stopped wearing because it wasn't her anymore. Funny how people resurrect old versions of themselves when someone new is watching. I told myself I was imagining things. I always do at first. Denial isn't stupidity. It's self-preservation. The mind buys time before it detonates. But details kept slipping through. Her schedule changing without explanation. Late meetings that never came with frustration. New lingerie folded with intention, not comfort. The way she'd started, showering the moment she got home, like she was rinsing something off, before it could be questioned. And then there was the phone. Always face down now, always on silent, always within reach. One evening, while she cooked, it lit up on the counter. Same initials. She didn't look at it. That was the mistake. People glance at meaningless notifications. They pretend not to see the dangerous ones. I watched her reflection in the microwave door. Her shoulders tensed. Just slightly. Enough. Who's that? I asked, casual, almost bored. She shrugged. Work. No elaboration. No annoyance. No eye contact. I nodded, filed it away. That night, I lay beside her again, staring into the dark. She turned toward me, traced a finger along my chest like she was checking for a pulse. You still love me? She asked. There it was. Not reassurance. Confirmation. I answered after a pause long enough to hurt, but short enough to feel real. Of course. She relaxed. Fell asleep fast. I didn't. I stared at the wall and realized something colder than suspicion had settled in. She wasn't just cheating. She was managing me, managing my emotions, my access, my version of reality. And that meant this wasn't an accident or a moment of weakness. This was a system, built quietly, maintained carefully. I thought about the message. I miss you. Not I want you. Not I need you. Miss is what you say when something already belongs to you. I rolled onto my side, facing away from her. Inside my head, a door closed. I didn't feel heartbreak yet. Just clarity sharpening itself. If she thought I was asleep through all of this, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I didn't rush. That's what people expect. Panic, confrontation, desperation for answers. I gave her none of it. I smiled when expected. I listened when spoken to. I played the role so well, even I almost believed it again. Almost. While she slept, I memorized patterns. Her passcode changed. 6 digits now. Repetitive. Emotional people always choose symmetry when they think they're being clever. I didn't try to break it. Not yet. Curiosity without preparation is how people expose themselves. Instead, I started smaller. Phone records. Shared account. Quiet blessing of domestic trust. Numbers don't lie. They repeat. Same contact. Same window of time. Late nights. Early mornings. Gaps during work hours that coincided with her meetings. It was almost poetic, how consistent betrayal can be when it thinks it's hidden. I screenshot nothing. Saved nothing. Evidence lives longer when it stays invisible. I watched her with new eyes. Every gesture recalibrated. The way she laughed at messages but never shared the joke. The way her body angled away from me. When she texted, like instinct, knew what language. Hadn't reached the brain yet. One night, she fell asleep with her phone unlocked. That happens when people get careless or comfortable. I didn't touch it right away. I waited, counted her breaths, measured the room, let the moment settle so it wouldn't feel rushed in my memory later. Then I picked it up. Messages archived. Of course they were. Hidden behind a neutral app name. No hearts. No obvious flirtation at first glance. Just logistics. Tomorrow, same time. He won't know. Miss you already. And then, a photo. Not explicit. Worse. Her smile. Real. Unfiltered. The kind she used to give me. Before everything became curated. My throat tightened. Not with pain, but recognition. That smile wasn't an accident. It was intentional. I locked the phone exactly how I found it. Placed it back in her hand so muscle memory wouldn't notice the absence. Lay back down beside her and stared into the dark. This wasn't just infidelity. It was replacement. The next week, I ordered a DNA test. Not because I suspected biology. Because I suspected truth. People who lie in one area lie everywhere. They compartmentalize until the compartments start leaking. I needed to know how much of my life was mine, and how much had been edited without consent. I stayed calm, unimpressive, predictable. She started getting nervous. I could feel it in the air. Questions she didn't ask. Guilt she disguised as affection. She touched me more, smiled harder, like she was reinforcing something she felt slipping. Let her. The test kit arrived in a plain envelope. I hid it beneath the sink. Mundane places are the safest. Nobody searches where they don't expect meaning. I swabbed my cheek alone. I mailed it the next morning. Then I waited. Every day stretched thinner than the last. Every look she gave me felt like a rehearsal for a confession. She hadn't planned yet. She thought time was on her side. She didn't know I'd already stepped outside of it. Because once you start collecting the truth, you stop being afraid of what it will say. The email arrived on a Tuesday. No subject line that screamed revelation. Just numbers, percentages, clinical language stripped of mercy. I read it once, then again. Then I closed my laptop and went to make coffee. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't always knock the air out of you. Sometimes it just rearranges the furniture inside your head, so quietly you don't notice until you try to sit down. The results were clear. Too clear. What I suspected wasn't paranoia. What I feared wasn't exaggeration. It confirmed something deeper than betrayal. It confirmed design. She came home that evening glowing, not from happiness, anticipation. Her eyes searched my face the moment she stepped inside, scanning for damage. I gave her none. We ate dinner like normal people, forks clinking, small talk about nothing. She told me about her day. I listened like a stranger learning a language he no longer planned to speak. Afterward, I stood and carried my plate to the sink. "Can we talk?" I asked. Her shoulders stiffened. "Just a fraction." We sat on the couch. Same place we'd shared promises. Same cushion, where she'd once cried and sworn loyalty with shaking hands. I placed the printed report between us. Didn't slide it, didn't explain it. Just set it down. She looked at it, then at me, then back at the paper. Her breath caught, not dramatically. Just enough. "What's this?" she asked. I leaned back. "Read it." Silence stretched. Pages trembled in her hands. I watched her face collapse in stages. Confusion, denial, recognition, fear. It was almost educational. This doesn't make sense," she whispered. I nodded. "It does." She looked up at me then, really looked, as if seeing a stranger sitting where her certainty used to be. "You went through my things?" she asked. I smiled. "No." That's when she knew. Tears formed. Predictable. Apologies lined up behind her eyes, begging for permission to exist. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. I just didn't hold back. "How long?" I asked. She swallowed. How did you—" "How long?" I repeated. Her voice cracked. "A year. A year." She watched me for a reaction. For anger. For pain. For permission to reframe herself as human instead of calculated. I gave her nothing. "You planned it," I said quietly. Not an accusation. A conclusion. She shook her head too fast. "It just happened." I leaned forward then, close enough for her to feel the distance. "No," I said. It continued. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The report lay between us like a body. And in that moment, she understood something she hadn't considered. I wasn't here to argue. I was here to finish. She started crying after that. Not immediately. There's always a delay. Like the body needs time to catch up with the consequences. Her shoulders folded inward. Hands covered her face. The sound was controlled at first. Then it slipped. I waited. People confess more when they think silence is judgment. "I was going to tell you," she said finally. "I just didn't know how." I nodded once, slow, deliberate. "That's not true." She looked up, startled. "You were never going to tell me," I continued. "You were going to wait until it was convenient. Or until you had an exit." Her lips trembled. "You don't know that." I leaned forward and picked up the report, tapped it lightly with my finger. "I know you ordered prenatal vitamins 3 months before you said anything to me." Her eyes widened. "I know you met him on Thursdays and told me you had late meetings." Another flinch. "I know you saved his name under initials so you wouldn't slip." She stopped crying. Fear replaced it. I stood and walked to the window. Night pressed against the glass like it was listening. When I turned back, I kept my voice even. "You weren't cheating because you were unhappy," I said. "You were cheating because you wanted control." "That's not—" "You wanted 2 lives," I cut in softly. "And you wanted me stable enough to support the one you didn't respect." She shook her head, desperate now. "Please, we can fix this." That word. "We." I smiled, not kindly. "I already did." She frowned. "What do you mean?" I reached into my jacket pocket and placed another envelope on the table, thicker, legal. Her name was on it. "I spoke to a lawyer last week," I said. Quietly. "Like you." Her breath hitched. "You can't just—" "I can," I said. And I have. I watched the realization bloom. That I wasn't reacting, I was executing. "I didn't tell your parents," I continued. "Didn't tell your friends. Didn't tell him." She looked confused, almost hopeful. "I don't need to," I said. "The truth always spreads on its own when it's given the right start." Her voice broke. "You're destroying me." I tilted my head. "No," I said. "I'm stepping out of the way." I picked up my keys. "I won't fight you," I added. "I won't yell. I won't beg. You'll wake up every day knowing you lost someone who saw you completely and chose silence over chaos." She stood, reaching for me. I stepped back. That was the moment. The exact second she understood, I was gone long before I walked out. I didn't look back when I closed the door, not because it would have hurt, but because it wouldn't have. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. Ordinary. Unremarkable. Funny how the end of something massive rarely announces itself. It just passes. I drove with the radio off. Silence is useful when you're reorganizing yourself. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Her name. I let it ring. Watched the screen until it went dark again. That was the last time it tried. Not because she ran out of words. Because she finally understood they had no power left. People think revenge is loud, explosive, that it requires spectacle. It doesn't. The most devastating kind is quiet. When you remove your presence and leave them alone with the version of themselves they can't escape. I didn't feel triumph. I felt alignment. Like something crooked had finally been straightened without force. Weeks passed. I moved, changed routines, simplified my life until there was nothing left that required explanation. Mutual friends asked questions. I answered carefully, truthfully, briefly. No venom, no theatrics. Her reputation collapsed anyway. Not because I pushed it, because lies can't breathe without attention. I heard she tried to reach me. Through emails. Through people who still believed she was a victim of circumstance. I blocked everything. Not out of anger. Out of precision. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. Some nights, I think about that first message. Is he asleep? Yes, I was. But I woke up. And I didn't go back. I learned something important from her, something she never meant to teach. That love without truth is just manipulation with better lighting. That trust is a privilege, not a default. And that walking away with your dignity intact is the most unrepeatable power a person can have. I don't miss her. I miss who I was before I had to become someone sharper. But I wouldn't trade that version of myself back. Because now, I see everything. And nothing touches me without permission. The story didn't end when I left. It ended when I stopped needing an ending. And she gets to remember me every time she wonders how someone could disappear so completely. After knowing her so well,